This story's about business and the economy over the last decade, so why all these images of people in doctors' offices? Because the biggest part of the economy, about 17 cents for every dollar, is healthcare. So over the decade just ending,
we are done.
The Affordable Care Act became law 84 days after the decade began. Since then, far more people have insurance, 9 of every 10 people you see, and Medicaid and Medicare expanded to the point that at least 1 of every 4 people in the tri-state has one or the other. But something else involving health is in crisis mode.
I know about 6 people that died last month in about a week span from opiate addiction.
Opioids killed 70,000 Americans in 2017 alone. Every year this decade, tens of thousands of people who would otherwise help our economy were gone. It's part of the reason that for the first time, life expectancy among Americans declined repeatedly during this decade. The result of it all? Lower population growth. And it's hard to grow an economy when the population isn't growing. But so far, the stock market and the overall economy have grown at their greatest rates ever. But overall, the rich got richer, a lot richer, and the not so rich and poor got poorer. According to the Federal Reserve, most middle-class households make less money now than they did before the Great Recession. Their costs have risen faster than wages, and the federal minimum wage of $7.25 stayed the same all decade long. It's part of the reason that the number of people getting SNAP benefits, formerly called food stamps, rose by 40%. Homelessness, at least in New York, climbed 70%, and rents here rose twice as fast as wages. The decade also brought a massive change in how and where you buy things. That's how almost all of us bought most consumer goods back in 2010. Now, at least 1 of every 9 retail purchases is done online, thanks to mega retailers like Amazon. Online sales are expected to triple in the next decade. And remember hailing a cab 10 years ago? That was the same year Uber launched, revolutionizing transportation, but causing the value of taxi medallions to plummet from a peak of $1 million each in 2013 to as low as $117,000 in 2019. The losses led at least 8 taxi cab owners to commit suicide. The change was part of the rise of the gig economy. From food delivery to renting out rooms, millions of people now make income when a click is used to book them. Now, at the beginning of the decade, medical marijuana had legal status in 16 states, but it was in 2012 that Colorado and then Washington state made recreational marijuana legal. Now, not only is marijuana allowed in some form in all but 2 states, but the $52 billion industry employs almost as many Americans as the U.S. steel, iron, and coal industries combined. In 2010, China became the second largest economy in the world. The current trade war gets lots of attention, but the trade deficit with China was at its highest back in 2011. Possibly the biggest effect of them being the world's 2 biggest economies is they're also the biggest polluters. Nobody can forget Superstorm Sandy hitting us hard with $70 billion in damage. That and 2 other hurricanes, Harvey and Maria, cost the U.S. $250 billion. They're reminders that climate change impacts the economy significantly. But estimates made at the beginning of the decade of how much climate-changing carbon will be pumped into the atmosphere have been slashed in half. But climate change remains an enormous challenge. So are reining in healthcare costs, stopping the opioid epidemic, balancing our relations with China and other nations, and making Wall Street's gains pay off on your street. In dealing with the challenges ahead, there's a lot riding on the outcome. James Ford, Pix 11 News.